I hate, by the way, that this is not in person.
I know, it sucks.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Are you in Pasadena?
We're in the world right now.
It is. Do you have any questions or anything before we start?
How you doing?
I'm okay. How have you been? I haven't seen you in 6 years.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, just hanging out, trying to stay safe. I hope you are. I'm glad you're
I'm in Ohio.
with family there.
Yeah.
So.
All right, I'm going to do my intro. Are we ready, Dwayne?
We're ready.
Here we go. Okay. Oh, hi. You're listening to Service from Hell, a podcast featuring people that are currently in customer service positions or the lucky few that got out, and all the good, bad, and infinitely irritating things that go along with that work. I'm actor and writer Kate Gaffney, and I'm uniquely qualified to discuss this as I used to work, because it's shut down now, at a very busy and very popular comedy club in Los Angeles. And at least one of you listening right now has probably grabbed me and told me you were ready to order when I was running around like a crazy person. So let's eat. Joining us via FaceTime, as I am still in Ohio and we are still in quarantine times while trying to stay sane in Los Angeles, is actor, writer, improviser, and director Dwayne Colbert. Dwayne hails from sunny Los Angeles as a native Angelino and has worked in almost all areas of entertainment. He is the original writer and director for the Second City produced musical comedies Afros and Ass Whoopins and Shade, a colorful musical comedy. Dwayne has written for Nickelodeon and Funny or Die, and as an actor he has appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Baskets, Silicon Valley, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and in numerous national commercials, with some probably coming up that I don't even know about. Most recently, this is my favorite part to be able to say, as in a few days ago, Dwayne is permanently able to call himself an Emmy winner, as he just won an Emmy for Best Original Song, How Cartoons Brainwashed Us with Jewish Stereotypes. Damn, I'm so proud of him. Anyway, I better know Dwayne from going through the Second City with him and then writing our Level 5 show together and going on tour with that same show. We then went on to perform in my favorite improv group ever that we formed, and it was called Just Wax It, which stopped performing because all improv groups eventually fell apart, and I'm still sad about it, but I'll get over it. Probably never. Anyway, Dwayne, please prove to the listeners that I am very, very cool by telling them how I used to know you before you were famous.
I don't know if that makes either one of us cool, but yeah, we used to, we were in them improv streets.
Oh my God, like for real.
Every black box, like there was no LA improv scene until we helped make an LA improv scene. Like,
I feel that way too. I totally feel that way too.
Feel that way because it was the truth. Fanatic Salon, the original clubhouse where you had to like walk up this little loft and bump your head on the pipes. Bro Squad 5 would just like rent a theater and just be like, we're just gonna put up shows here. We'd be like, cool, we're gonna roll with you guys.
Yeah.
At the improv, that little lab space they had. I mean, there were, when people thought of comedy, when we started doing improv, Kate, all they thought of was stand up. Like literally thought comedy. Live comedy was stand up. And improv was like, no, it was for like theater geeks. Like now improv is everywhere.
Everywhere. It's too bad.
So it's like stand ups in the improv spaces and improvs in the stand up spaces. Insane.
Yeah.
Those were like camps that just did not mix back in the day. And we were out there doing it. Yeah. Neon Venus, all those little.
Oh my God, I forgot about that one. Oh my God.
Yeah,
R.I.P.
We were like everywhere. We were, I think we might have done like restaurant prov or what.
We sure did.
Our first show was some kind of like, what was that? My friend Rose.
Yep.
Like,
we were, it was
like a city thing or something. I don't know what it was, but we just like up there performing.
We thought we were part of some festival and like that wasn't true. It was literally us while everybody was eating, and it felt like, it almost felt like a hall, like a dance hall.
Kind of hall.
Yeah. And Nathan's godfather was in town and my parents were in town, and we were like, this is the show, but no one was paying attention. Right. They were all eating dinner because it was basically a wedding reception. Oh, I forgot about that show.
Like, hey, I'm a mechanic and I got to feel.
And they wanted us to do improv games. We finally distilled our very complex, amazing form into literally like, give us a suggestion. Now I'm holding a wrench and scene. Right. And they lived for our like 10-second scenes. I forgot about that.
Oh man. Yeah.
Oh,
so that's what I mean by like in those improv streets. Like now, improv's all polished and awesome and it could be on Netflix, but we were doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a grind. So so you're a native Angelino, born and raised, correct?
Okay. I am.
So
what used to be called South Central, now is just South Los Angeles, but yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that they changed the name.
I think officially it's been changed, yeah. But it was like, I was near Western Exposition off of 38th.
Okay.
Right near USC.
Gotcha. And so now in my experience, most people from LA are so turned off by the entertainment industry because they grew up sort of in it too much, or they saw too much, or they heard too much. So what was your journey getting into front of the camera acting? Because you did not start out that way. So how and why?
Yeah, I had no interest in Hollywood that kind of way. I was just working in animation for a while, but eventually became a writer for some animated shows that you mentioned at the top. And, the writing was kind of getting stale. So my buddy said, just take an improv class. My buddy Doug. So I took a improv class. Well, I actually Googled the word improv. Then I was like, oh yeah, that's that thing. I kind of know what it is, but not really. I didn't really know the history of it, or it is a performance piece or anything like that, or, what schools taught it and all that. But I saw and read about Second City, and I saw that there was a satellite theater for the Second City in Hollywood. So I just started taking class. Took my first class January 2007, and I've been acting ever since. I had never acted before. That wasn't even in a school play before, but I didn't even call myself an actor for a while. After we graduated, I went on tour with the Second City, and even then I would just call myself an improviser. It was not until I came back from Ships, was on one of their first house teams there at the Second City Hollywood, and then I didn't get on a team after one of the auditions, like after that or something like that. So when I didn't get on the team, I was like, what the actual?
You can cuss.
Like, what?
You can cuss. Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I wanted to look inward. So I was like, my improv is probably from The Ships Didn't Help, but not to blame it on that kind of gig, but kind of improv where I was just looking for laughs. I could tell that I was not being real, and I had never taken real acting beyond what the my improv instructors could kind of bestow upon me along the way in the conservatory there. So I really studied acting after that, and then it just kind of opened up.
Yeah. Okay. And so how did your sort of what was your attraction? Like you said, animation initially. So you were always drawing growing up? That was sort of, you were artistic and creative?
That's exactly that. I was drawing. I started just kind of tracing things, too scared to draw it on my own. And then my grandma bought me a bunch of Dr. Seuss books. So I wanted to just go it on my own and not trace. So I just drew some of the characters from that and showed them to her. And her excitement got me excited. So then I used to draw Peanuts characters. I really used to love drawing the Peanuts characters because they were so simplistic looking, but difficult to really convey and capture emotion. So I love that challenge about them. I saw, always grew up watching cartoons. Loved when they used to only be on Saturdays. Loved Saturday morning cartoons and all that. But then I remember one day as an adult, I saw The Lion King, and I was just like, oh man, that is like an epic tale done in animated form with music. Like, what the hell's going on here? So it was like a different and a change in animation, I thought, than what they were normally putting out, especially from Disney. So that made me want to study it. And then I started, just called up all the animation studios that happen to be locally here in Southern California, most of them in Burbank. And they were just send me packets on, well, this is how you do what we do. Here's where to go. Here's what to learn. Then I eventually took some classes at the Animation Guild and also got an internship at a small animation studio, Hyperion, where they did Happily Ever After and Life with Louie and some other animated Brave Little Toaster series and whatnot. It was some ex-Disney execs who had started that business, and they were great and taught me a lot. Because I moved up from being an intern there to a runner, just running packages, to a PA, and I made sure that I knew everything that was part of pre-production before we took it all in one box. That used to be my job, to take it in a box down to FedEx to ship off to get animated. So I just learned the whole process because I loved it so much, and that helped me when I eventually would start working at Animaniacs for at Warner Brothers TV Animation and Pinky and the Brain and all those fun shows. And then eventually went over to Disney Feature after that and worked on some animated features there. And the story guys there were amazing. They was better than film school. They would tell me what books to read, what movies to watch, look at my drawings. We would just talk all day about the story. They were just really amazing. And they've helped me develop my artistic skills too. Yeah, that's how, that was even before writing, before acting or any of that.
One of my favorite stories that you told me early on when we were hanging out was that you knew that The Princess and the Frog was coming out, but you didn't know what it was called, and you were tasked to work on it, and you were working on it. You're like, oh, it's this cool black princess, and this is a cool story, but it was ages before it came out, and then you ended up leaving Disney before it was released. Am I remembering that correctly? Yeah, and I would tell people the story of how animation at Disney would take decades, and I didn't understand that. It's I was like, oh, I just assumed you start drawing and 6 weeks later you got a finished movie, and I didn't.
About from development to screen. I'm sure it's all changed and a lot better and streamlined now, and it's all different. But it was about 5 years or so for a feature to get up. Yeah.
That's crazy. So then you take an improv class per the suggestion of Doug, and you're thinking, okay, I'm pretty good at this, which you are. And you're thinking, all right.
No, I was not thinking that at all. Actually, when I took my first improv class, Josh Funk was the artistic director there now. He was one of my first teachers there. And I was just like so bad because I came from a writer background where he would say 2 people up and I would just be like, all right, great. Start a scene with like, hey, sister of mine in this place that we all just like narrating the scene rather than playing in the scene. I was so bad that he would yell 2 people up and I would leap up and no one would get up with me.
Are you kidding me? I was taking a drink of water. Are you serious?
So I was like, this is not for me. So I found out they had a sketch writing program at the time that also culminated in some big show. So I was telling Josh Funk, I was like, nah, bro, I'm cool. I'm just not going to take improv. He was like, no, we need people. At the time, there's, not a lot, but now there's a million. But at the time, he was like, there are not a lot of Black improvisers. He said, you got something, we can help develop that. I was like, nope, I'm cool, I'm a writer. So I just took the sketch program, and that was about a year-long program at the time too. It was like now we teach sketch left and right, but it was a long program that culminated in you putting up a sketch show with these other people who had gone through the levels with you. And Josh Funk ended up being our director for our sketch show. So I saw him working with the actors, and then at our graduation ceremony after our run of our sketch show, they announced he was the new artistic director replacing Dave Rosowski. So when he called my name up and get my little T-shirt and everything and certificate, he was like, yeah, and this guy needs to stay for our improv program. And I was like, wow, he put me on blast like that. So when I got up there, I was like, all right, you know what, man, you put me on blast. Plus, you were there, my original improv teacher, and they made you artistic director. I'll stay and see what you got to say. So I stayed and pretty much became an actor because of that challenge of someone saying you could possibly be good at improv.
Which is so funny because by the time I met you was when I first started in the program, which was like 2009, 2010, something like that. And
2009.
2009. It was 2009. I get that whole time mixed up because I was so new to LA, and I remember just thinking like, oh my God, he's so good. This is so frustrating. And we had, I forget who else was in our. Nathan was already in our class too, and he was so strong.
You guys were already a group. People whose name I forget. Shoni, dang it, what's her name? I forget. But yeah, she's a model now, but I forget her name. Whatever. At her house.
Oh, Karen.
Oh,
God, love her. Oh, we had to kick her out of the group. So awkward.
Yeah. She started. That was amazing.
Yeah.
So she started the group, and we were like, you know what? It's not working out.
Bye.
Such is improv, right?
Cutthroat. Oh, bless us.
That, was the acting impetus and journey and all that other crap.
And then we ended up taking our show to Chicago, and I'll never forget, you had never been to Chicago before, and I was so excited because we flew in together from LA, and when we landed in the airport, I was like, we're getting popcorn, we're getting pizza, we're doing all the things.
It was such a Chicago experience.
It was a quintessential Chicago experience, especially because we landed in the winter. And the first thing you said to me when we were getting our bags from the conveyor belt was you were like, oh, I can't do this. And you had this huge parka.
We were landing in Chicago in January.
Yeah, it was wicked. It was so dumb. That's why we sold out every show, because people didn't want to be outside.
Yeah. But that experience though, like
unreal.
I mean, I don't know what it is now, and we know that some of the folks that are involved with putting it together have, since not necessarily continue to be part of the community.
Right.
But at the time,
crickets.
The Chicago Sketch Fest was amazing.
It was amazing at the time.
We had like 2 great nights. We had a great time slot.
Yeah.
We had like a write-up in the local papers.
Yeah.
People were coming up to us. It was nuts.
It was great.
People just like hanging out. They just wanted to hang out and get drunk with us.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my gosh. What? Oh, that was so much fun. And then
you guys don't realize this is our graduation show. We were students a month ago.
Yeah. And now we're on tour, bitch. Yeah. What do you... And weren't there like 5 of us in that one hotel room? I mean, didn't we? We were doing it on a budget.
Like all night. It was like, I don't know.
So crazy.
It was like some kind of like weird ayahuasca kind of like,
yeah.
I mean, we were just like another time and place. We were all just like, I remember us being in a circle, like drunk as shit. And we were like chanting something.
Yeah, because we were dancing and like, and all my friends from college came in and we were getting hyped.
So great.
This is such good.
I had a friend from college coming too. Yeah.
Yeah, and Shoni had a shitload of friends come because he was living there right before it. This is great audio for the listeners. They're like, are these 2 friends just talking? Yes, it is. Yes,
Pretty
it
much.
is. It's just 2 friends talking.
We're talking about that experience of meeting in at Second City and what that meant to us at the time. Becoming young artists, and the whole improv scene in LA was different and changed and new, and we were helped kind of developing that at the time.
Yeah.
No one who's dope on the scene now would even remember our group, but I feel like we kicked so much ass though, and
I feel that way as well, and that was it had such an influence on my life as wanting to stay in LA and be an artist and continue on, because it was such a supportive amazing environment, and we got lucky. It was
we really did.
we
It
got really
was a
lucky.
good time.
Yeah.
I mean, and, people that I still talk to you all the time. I still hang out with Shawnee. We do work. I try to keep up with others, but people got lives. But most people a lot of people that I still work with or wanted to work with in comedy come out of the sketch and improv community. Though.
Yeah, because you get to see them on a different level. So get us up to today. So that was you sort of moved to front of the camera. So you've been on some pretty huge shows, and I've seen you.
You say been on, but I mean they're not like guest star or series regular roles. I mean a couple of them could be considered like recurring roles if you come back to something, but they're mostly just like co-star roles. The guy who's got a few lines, the new guy in town, the visiting cop or something like that. So you could build a career that way, and I think I've built a co-star career that way, and as well as doing lots of commercials, just a shit ton of those.
Yeah. And so now get us up to speed, because I really want you to talk about the Emmy. And I know you're humble and don't want to probably get into it, but what was so it was an animated sort of spoof kind of like talk us through.
New York Archulo, who I know from Improv and Sketch. He's part of the super group Dr. God that started at IO West. I know him from there as a fan. I used to watch those guys all the time, and then we became friends when we were both on a improv team called Shortstop at what was their Nerdist, and then became the Ruby LA. So Shortstop started before me, but Neil was, I believe, one of the original members. And when they were looking to add people to the group, I had been on a couple of teams before that at the theater, so they knew me and I knew them, and they asked me to join their team, and we were just like hung out one night, and I feel like it was just like magic, one of those things where you get home and you're like plastered, whatever. You be like, that was a freaking good time. So anytime I've ever hung out with Neil, it's just been a good time. So Neil hit me up with the idea that he had already sold or was about to sell to Funny or Die with his own production, not really sell, but his own production company, going in partnership with Funny or Die Digital to do this. Just like a 3-episode short series about this idea that he called at the time Bigotry the Musical, and he wanted to work with me on it. I had done at that point one musical. I don't know if I'd done the second one yet. Maybe, I don't know. Shade was maybe not up. I don't know. But he had know that I had worked with musicals, that kind of thing, and we knew each other's comedy, so he trusted me. We even pitched it. He was even gracious enough to pitch the show as a me-him thing to attract a couple of people that were trying to get to it. But the basic idea was that we take these issues that were hot-button issues, like bigotry against black people, or anti-Semitism against Jewish people, or sexism against women, and we would show through our own argument and supported by archive footage, cartoon footage, how we as a society have been brainwashed to believe these things through this visual medium. Not that we weren't trying to argue that this is the only reason. We're just, living in a communist, brainwashed society. We weren't saying that. We were saying, look at the influence and look at the direct influence. And we could pretty much show that in a comical way. And that's always a challenge. I mean, I think one of the reasons Neil, I don't know, you'd have to ask him, asked me to be a part of it, of Brainwashed by Tunes, was that the way in which through Second City, we were able to satirize hot button issues like police brutality and do it in a humorous way where we had droves of people coming to watch us and check it out. So.
And you're talking about Afros and Ass Whoopins, which had a residency at Second City in Hollywood and was a brilliant musical that needs to do more things, but that's fine. I stay on you about that.
We're working on that.
I believe that.
Say that. Fingers crossed, Kate. There's some things happening.
Great.
Hopefully.
There's a space
with that idea in that show. And we've expanded the idea as well. We've wrote it. It was a 1-act that ran for a year and a half at Second City. And when that closed, Huey and I, the musical director, wrote it as a 2-act musical as well. We haven't performed the 2-act musical on stage yet, but we're looking to do that. And we also wrote it as a feature. So hopefully there's some things happening there.
Cool. Well, I won't probe too deeply because, yay, we'll talk when we're not recording. Great. Okay.
Oh, and Shade, a colorful musical that Huey and I put up together, another musical comedy about race relations. That was up for Hollywood. It got accepted into Hollywood Fringe. It had gotten a scholarship for Hollywood Fringe and everything, but then the pandemic hit and they held off on Hollywood. They postponed it till October. Then we just found out last week that they canceled it for this year altogether.
Oh, you're kidding.
But hopefully, I don't know if we'll have to reapply or not or whatever, but we definitely want to put that up because we were going to do, Kyle and I, Kyle McGrath, the co-writer of that, and Huey, the musical director with Mirage Thrams, who also wrote music and lyrics for us. We were going to redo that whole thing too. The 1-act we put up at Second City is almost like a testing ground, and it hit too. It got an extension. It was really great and funny. But we wanted to, kind of after the events of today, contemporize it just a bit more too. Because the basic idea of Shade is that a black woman and a white woman switch places for a day because they believe the other one has it better.
Oh, I love that concept. I never got to see Shade, so I'm excited
Yeah.
I'm
It was
excited
great.
to
It was
see
a
it
Freaky
when.
Friday kind of thing, but it was so fun and silly, and the music was amazing. I love that show.
Yeah, well, Huey Stonefish is incredibly talented with music, and you are too.
Yeah.
And so I could see that being a happy marriage. That's great. So getting us to today. So now you're kind of everything's sort of on hold for you industry wise, but you are just
trying to do some stuff.
okay.
But there's a lot of writing going on. Animation is still happening, so there's things that can be happening there, could potentially be happening right now. Neil has got a million ideas, and so we're talking about stuff too. I mean, he was again gracious enough to bring me on, but we built that show like together. He and I were the head writers on that, and we are looking to do more musical things is what I'll say. What I can say right now. So,
Great.
definitely want to be known since we got the Emmy to solidify as someone who can, do musical comedies with have a social impact. And this was before it was in, when black was the new black. It was before it was in vogue to do all that. So I've always been feeling like art is the way to, express your own point of view. My point of view has always been equality for all, man. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Wrong is wrong.
Yeah. And you've always, and to your point earlier, you've always done it in a way that satirized it so that it was palpable. And there was a reason that it kept getting extended. And the run was, it wasn't just you weren't speaking to an echo chamber. You were able to bring in audience members who I think, you had an impact on, which is always the goal. And so can you just quickly, for people not in the industry, so the Emmy process, who nominated you? Did you guys submit a packet nominating yourselves, or were you nominated?
Yeah, either Funny or Die and or Neil's Raphael production company probably submitted some sort of package. I don't know how it all works.
I don't either, to be honest. And then but you got the notification that you guys won.
They had to list, the credits and all that, who did what. So that's the only reason I'm, getting any recognition at all is that I executive produced on it and wrote lyrics. So there are two different nominations where that affects it. The song itself, I was an executive producer on, so I was not featured on the song in any way, but I did write lyrics on it. And for the other nomination that we haven't found out about yet, and won't until like July 26th or something like that, or 25th, was outstanding writing in a special class series. So the writing is where it would be, the listed as a head writer, and that would be if we got anything, it would be for that.
And so will you actually get a statue though for what you've gotten so far?
Yes.
Amazing. That's so exciting. All right, guys. Well, we hope you enjoyed your apps. We're going to go on to the entrees after a quick break. We are back. And now it's time for the entrees. I've built in breaks just because the goal is to hopefully eventually make money on this motherfucking time suck that is this podcast. So I build in breaks. We are back, and now it's on to the entrees. Okay, this is the speed round of questions. What was your first job ever?
First job ever. Oh, I worked as there was a place where the the ice cream trucks would get re-up their supply of ice cream and whatnot. So I worked at the place where they would load up. And they paid me an ice cream. I was 8 years old.
I will die. You were not 8.
Oh yeah, I was 8 years old.
Dwayne, was it like a family business? What the fuck were you doing working at 8?
A friend was working there. He was like, "Hey man, you want a job?" I was like, "Yeah, I'd love a job." He's like, "Well, they pay you an ice cream." I was like, "Oh my god, this is the best job ever."
Of all time.
It was just like after school for like an hour or so. It was nothing.
Was it
I only did it for like a little while. Yeah.
Was it the like SpongeBob bars and the the creamsicles and
exactly that?
Oh, I would have stolen like a motherfucker, especially at 8. Nothing would have ever made it to the trucks.
I don't even think that's the way they even loaded. Probably just like one dude buying his own crap now, but at the time they needed help loading these trucks, so that's my first job. Yeah.
Man, do they even have ice cream trucks still? I feel like, in Koreatown they used to. Yeah, that's still a thing.
I just heard an ice cream truck the other day around here. I live in a neighborhood where they come
all the time because there's kids. Okay, great. How many customer service? Wow, Kate, I'm too comfortable with you. I have to get focused. How many customer service jobs have you had? And feel free to add them up.
Let's see. Customer service. Let's see.
And you can list them out.
I would say at least 5.
Okay, so
sure more.
Can you tell the listeners what was in your head as far as what the jobs were? So would you say I don't know that the refilling the truck at 8 years old counts.
It was a direct customer service.
No,
I worked as a physician referral rep.
Oh,
where people
God.
called into a number and say, "Oh, this doctor's on the list," and what about him? And you'd have to say things about the doctor.
Oh my God. Would you make shit up?
No. We had their curriculum vitae or whatever right in front of us. We had to read from that and talk about the hospital and their specialties, and we'd only have to state facts.
Oh, so there was never opinion, but you would just answer call. So people would call and be like, "What does Dr. Wong do? Is he great?
Yep.
Is he this?" And you're like, "Yes, he's great."
Like, this person did this and did that, but they wanted to talk to people about it, so that was a customer service job.
Okay, what else have you done? Okay, so that's one.
I was what do you call it? Answering service. Like if a couple of them were doctor's offices, but they weren't all doctor's offices. Where it was before machines, but people wanted to talk to a live person, so you would just answer and take the message for them.
Oh, did you hear disgusting things?
I don't remember hearing anything disgusting on that job. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't work there very long. Yeah.
Okay, that's two. What else you got?
Speaking of that I was overseas. AT&T was a long distance overseas operator. I don't even know if they even have operators now anymore, but back when there were actual phones that weren't cellular,
Landline.
They had a dial tone. Yeah. I was the person when you dial 00. I think 0 was local and 00 was like long distance to overseas. So I was long distance overseas for AT&T. I was customer service big time.
But what would you do? Like, what would be?
Connecting calls, there's all kinds of crap like that. You'd have to you have these cars. Sometimes you time calls. It was weird. I knew how to say hello in a bunch of different languages. It's stupid. Yeah,
that's cool.
It was a while ago.
Okay, that's three. What else you got?
What else is that to do? Customer service that I was thinking of. Receptionist.
Okay.
Receptionist a few times.
That's four.
What was the other one I was thinking of? I was looking at people in the face.
Well, I'm going to argue.
Worked, retail. Yeah, I worked at what used to be Macy's. I don't know if they have Macy's anymore. Do they have Macy's anymore?
They're going under, I guess. But yeah, I guess they're a brick and mortar that still exists.
Back in the day, that's customer service. Oh, God, those are terrible jobs.
I would argue working on the boats doing improv is customer service because you're interfacing with the guests and stuff. And I think
definitely had to what they used to call glad handing. We'd have to after our set, we'd have to the people in the passengers want to talk to this entertainer, so we had to go out and meet them and talk to them and let them buy you drinks and all that. So that was but and then we also did workshops for Second City, so that was a bit of customer service there. So I worked for American Heart Association. That was a fundraiser really, but there was a lot of cajoling volunteers. You'd have city council members or prominent physicians and whatnot, people who are pillars of the community, be a part of your groups in these localized sections of LA. So I had a lot of working with people to get them to volunteer their time to fundraise for this cause.
Ooh, okay, we're up to 7. That's 7.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other receptionist type. You're the first. I know I said receptionist where I was actually receptionist, but the other jobs like that where you're first line of defense for some. But you're not the actual receptionist, kind of thing, but you do have this interaction. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll give you an even 8, just because that seems...
Sure. I also used to... What did I used to do with summer jobs? I remember I used to... it was like a daycare center. We would feed the kids, and we didn't have to teach them, but we help wrangle the kids and get them all, situated and off to their parents and all that. It was a bunch of us teenagers who had to do that kind of thing. It was not quite camp, not quite... I don't know what it was, but it was fun and awesome, and you had to deal with parents and teachers a lot and stuff like that.
Jeez Louise. Okay, so that's 9, 10. We'll give you 10. 10. Yeah, I did. I worked at a camp and it was no thanks. I love kids, but no thanks.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Is food service, does that count? Because I worked in a lot of food service places too. Yeah, I worked in burger joints at high school. I remember that. I remember a guy, he worked at a place. He was one of the first employees right before the Fat Burger restaurant became a franchised.
Okay.
Back in the day when there were just a few, standalones in LA. So he used to work with the group or family or whoever it was that owned it back then. And he was disgruntled. He said he was upset that when they did start franchise, he was promised things that didn't happen. So he started his own rival burger joint, and it wasn't Fat Burger, it was Fat Man. He was a large man, so it was ironic. So I worked at Fat Man, which was right near my house. It was at that corner. It's this little strip mall at Western Exposition. So I worked there, and I worked at McDonald's, and I worked...
Dwayne, we talked about this podcast before we did this. I gave you the question. And he's like, oh, shit. Also this and also this. So now we're up to 11.
Stuff.
McDonald's was probably crazy.
Jobs. I worked there for one day.
Well, Dwayne, why? Why just
nuggets and fries? And then during a break, they gave you a little Dixie cup size cup. And to go get something to drink, so I went and got some soda in there. And the guy was like, did you just get soda? I was like, yeah, I'm thirsty, man. He was like, you're only supposed to get water during the break. I was like, slowly taking off my apron. Y'all can have this shit, bro. If I can't get so I can drink water at home. I was like, I never used to get so. I was like, you kidding me? We got all the flavors. I'm about to get all these bitches.
I'm about to do a suicide in this motherfucker.
Up on my fucking Dixie cup. So I was just like standing there, like eyeballing customers, like.
I wish somebody would say something. I love that. Wait, so
I was like, bro, are you kidding me? I was just out of there. I remember them sending me a check for that one day, and I was just like, I didn't even cash that shit. I was like, y'all keep your shit, bro. I'm acting like this shit didn't happen. I'm blocking this out.
Good, I'm re-traumatizing you.
And then in college too, I worked in the cafeteria.
Oh, wicked. Was that hard?
That was really hard because, I remember working with my homie Jay. He's a principal now. I remember me and Jay was working like the omelet station one morning.
Oh, God.
It was like a line out the door. Still was like, I remember one point Jay just picked up the egg bucket and just like poured it all across the grill. We just like separated them all with their orders that way. It was ridiculous.
Oh my God. And you're also serving your peers when they're hungover and they know you.
That was like the worst job. Well, maybe the worst job I had when I was in college, because I also used to call up alumni and ask them for money when I was in college. That was another job I had. It's a customer service job, right? Another job I used to have, but this wasn't customer service. It was in the city of Davis. I don't know if they still do now. I went to UC Davis. They used to have these double-decker buses that they all got from England when they were put them out to pasture with send them here, or they acquired them some kind of way. So the city had these double-decker buses. I would wash those fucking buses.
Shut up, Dwayne.
And it was like that diesel fucking exhaust is like the worst smell in the world to me. And yeah, I've had some shitty jobs.
Yeah, you have. And how long did you last washing buses?
Not long. Not long.
Longevity is not your thing.
I had one where I guess this would be considered customer service. It was also in college. Like in the summertime, there was a lot of like Hunts, Contadina, the Campbells all had like factories and fields and whatnot up there in Northern California, where I went to school. So summer job would be a sweet one. Would be working because you could make enough money to pay for a school year there. I mean,
Shut up.
Amazing. Yeah. So I remember one year I was working a field rep where we would. Have a book full of maps. This is before GPS. A book full of maps. We had to go out to these different farmers' lots and say we want a certain amount of this tomato versus that one, and we'd like have to have our penknife there and test them, taste them and all that. And I hated tomatoes before college. After that, I learned to fucking love them. But I was a field rep for a while doing that, and that same company, I think it was Contadina. They did like over Redenbacher. It was like a large company, had all these different systems. So we were like eating popcorn like right off the fucking stalks, that kind of thing, in the office and stuff like that. It was just like a cool job. But we had to go out and talk to these farmers all the time. And these were like second, third generation Japanese farmers. Not all of them, but a lot of them were. The bulk of them that I dealt with were. So they were, knew their shit, and they could tell when you're green and you don't know yours. So it was interesting and awesome to have to deal with the different, personalities that way there. And I also worked at Campbell's was more inland. That was like in the city of Sacramento, and it was like a plant, it was like a paste plant, not much outside, dealing with the public, but I worked in the paste plant where they would make a tomato paste, right? And we would fill up these big drums. I'm talking about, it was a drum, like a radioactive type drum, and then plastic lining, and then it would come inside. We put the lid on, bang that shut. Oh man, we had some jobs, man.
Yeah, you have. Yeah. Were you one of the ones filling the paste, like putting the paste in the drum?
Yeah. I even worked in one part where they had tomatoes would come down through this conveyor belt, and you'd like remove anything that wasn't tomato before it gets to the part where they're chopping it up. Some of that shit would be like a rat's or like a log or like whatever, something that ain't tomato, and they would make it past us, and they would get chopped up too.
Come on, Dwayne. Stop. That's not true.
I'm not kidding.
I'm so grossed out.
Be grossed out.
I am.
I'm sure their quality controls are better than they were with college kids doing a summer job back then. But
where nobody gives a fuck, and no wonder you hated tomatoes, because you're like, I'm not about to eat a rat tail the next time I have tomato paste.
I also found out they cooked a lot of those soups, like for like Campbell's soup, where they cook them in the can, like as they go through this conveyor
Gross.
And get it all put together. They cook them while they're in the can.
That seems gross to me, but I guess maybe not. Maybe, that explains why when you lift the lid off, there's like that condensation. Dwayne, you're spitting so much knowledge on these listeners. I did not know that was a thing. Gross. Can you reach into the archives? Anything else? Can you think of anything else?
I think that was it. I think
Okay.
those are most of the jobs.
Okay. So we were up to 62. So you have a lot of customer service jobs. Okay, great. Which was your favorite of all of the, not obviously comedy, improv, writing, directing, those are all your favorites now. What was your favorite of those customers?
When people say directing, when they were talking about me, it sounded like I'm out there doing films. This is just like comedy theater directing, for the Second City.
Which is
and
still
other little small
hard.
Pack, But yeah, what was the favorite job? Customer service jobs are hard to be a favorite, let me tell you.
Facts.
I guess at the American Heart Association, because it was a cause that was personal to me, and I met a lot of amazing people, and just had good support there. It was very stressful. I'm talking about highly stressful.
Why?
It's heavy just thinking about it. It's a lot of politics involved with that kind of thing. Again, you're dealing with the pillars of the society. So these are people who have a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of education. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of influence. So, trying to be a voice in their ear that is getting them to do something that they're not getting paid for is quite the dance. So that's one of those jobs where I really know, or in retrospect can look back and say, I really know how to talk to people. I really do. It's not being shown on this stutter fest of this podcast, but really though, and that and the ship. When I toured with Second City, there'd be people from all over the world, and just with an ease, just talking to people, like no problem. Even some of the talked to some really racist motherfuckers too.
Really?
On the ship a couple of times, and a couple of them, if you ask them about me, they would be like, we're best friends.
How? So they would come at you with some kind of ridiculously offensive comment, and then you were able to sort of smooth it out.
Sometimes smooth it out. Sometimes just give them shit back. I could think of one person in particular he was an employee of the cruise line, and so he was considered himself kind of an entertainer, but even though he wasn't employed as an entertainer, but they had these little contests for the passengers and all that, so he'd be part of wrangling those, putting them together, being in costume, making a couple of jokes. So he really enjoyed the Second City and our group of people. He'd see different casts coming through and all that. You usually get to know them, wanted to do what we did. But outside of work, he would oftentimes, when we're an excursion at one of the ports or something like that, I think he was Australian or something, just really racist points of view. Or try to make racist jokes all the time. And I was just like, bro, I'm not here for that shit. I'm going to give it right back to you.
Good for you. And then eventually he was like, oh, I'm an asshole. And then got better, or he just stopped being a dick to you?
No, he just stopped being a dick to me. I don't know if he necessarily stopped being a dick. I remember him coming to LA. Lots of people who I'd met on the ship and other places came to LA, or when they come to LA, they would stop by and either come see a show or come see me, we have a drink, whatever. But he was actually a pretty okay guy besides the racism. I know that makes me sound terrible. Not that I'm here for anybody's racism, but it felt like it was coming more from a place of ignorance from him. So even with my jokes that I'd be very biting and try to cut the fucking shit out of. I'd cut him down with mine, but I was still trying to educate while I'm doing this. It's like, that's a delicate dance to be able to, one, make it funny, because I'm making sure I ain't just talking shit. I'm making sure everybody around me is rolling at your sorry ass. So one, I was making funny. Two, I was trying to make a point, and then three, trying to educate a bit too.
I mean, I think that is the dance. That's why your writing is so, it's able to penetrate, because you don't give up on people, even the people that I want to scream at, and you roll with it. So you handle things very calmly in a way that I don't. Okay. So what was your least favorite of all of those jobs?
Gosh, did I talk about when I was a PA?
No, but you should, because I feel like that's customer service on the highest level. That's dealing with some bullshit.
When I was at that animation studio, they also did some live action productions as well. And I think I worked at one of their live action productions as a PA. And, they had live animals and stuff. And they were asking PAs to just do stuff that you probably, shouldn't be doing, like cleaning up monkey shit.
Come on. Tell me that's not true.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool. I don't mind it, because that same... So the good and bad with that, but that's probably the worst customer service job I ever had, was a PA on a live action shoot where I had to clean up monkey shit. That same production, though, they also needed some drawings for this little girl who's was drawings of a bear coming to hang out in her hot tub. So they needed someone to do the drawings last minute, and all the artists, I guess, at the animation studio were busy. So they asked me, and I was like, heck yeah, I can do those. So I got my drawings on camera. That was really great. And I did a couple of ancillary character voices on a few cartoons that they had there. So that was great too. Okay,
so it's not all bad being a PA,
but at the same time,
you also cleaned up monkey shit. Yeah, gross. So. No thanks. What's the weirdest thing you've been asked to do whilst on the clock?
Well, that monkey shit's pretty weird.
I would agree.
But when mean, I was a PA on a few productions in animation. I don't want to cast any disparaging comments toward anyone there because lots of them are still my friends and I still know work. But put it this way. It doesn't matter how small or large the production I've been on. I've oftentimes run into people who will use their position of power to belittle you. And it was just unnecessary. A couple times it just like really got lit into for something just trivial where I could see spittle coming out of the person's mouth as they're yelling some ridiculous thing that they get done exactly the way they want it. And it was almost, to the point where you just want to laugh at it because it was so ridiculous. But that's happened quite a few times. But, it's terrible that we have to do this. But at the time I did just chalk it up to something you have to go through as part of experience, paying your dues kind of bullshit that no one should have to go through really.
I agree.
Yeah, that it was stressful. Even being a runner, like delivering packages around town. I mean, I got to know. I'm from LA, but I still got to know the city a lot better just driving around. Before GPS again. But that was really stressful to have to get to certain places they would always act like it's the end of the fucking world if you don't get what you're supposed to get to somebody by a certain time. It's like, dude, no one's going to die. Fuck off. It's not medicine or a heart or some shit we're delivering. Just some goddamn paper. But
I mean, come on.
So it's very stressful,
Yeah.
Plus you're just trying to pay rent too. I was just like, I remember thinking at the time, if I do 500 hours a week, then I'll get like $500 a week, and I can pay my rent. Some shit like it was like really
if I can figure out how to transcend time and multiply myself into threes, then I can just earn more money.
I remember like my breaks being like I had this like 81 320i. And I remember my breaks just like being like gone, but I could not afford to get them done. I still had to deliver these fucking packages around town. So I remember once it was like one of those abrupt stops in traffic. And I remember just like pushing down on what non-existent brakes I had and then just like pulling up on the emergency brake and kind of wiggling the tires back and forth so it'll slow itself down going, oh God, please don't crash it anyone. And I didn't, but it was like stressful.
Oh, no thanks.
But I love those broke times though now. Looking back on it, it was like, man, we were doing it, doing what you got to do. I mean, it's true what they say a lot of times to people about this business. If you don't love it, like do something else, because I would do it and suffer through people yelling at me or not being able to barely pay my rent or almost dying in a car crash because I can't afford to get my brake fixed. I would do that over any of those fucking so-called real jobs, because this was like, I don't know, something about loving it in a deep way. Storytelling, I guess, would sum up all the different kind of work that I do. The storytelling is just like, that is like trying to really get a grasp of what it means to be human. So what a better job is it than that?
That's a great way of saying it. I agree. And yeah, if you don't love it, get out. And I think that is part of the problem in LA is people stay too long. They stay in it thinking that they've somehow failed if they choose to do something different or if they take a different path or they should take a divergent path and they don't, and they stay and shit all over the city or shit all over the industry or any variation of that. And I think that's part of why there's such an embittered population there. It's like, it's okay to leave. It's not prison.
To be on their side just a bit though, there is something to be said about hanging around, about not giving up, about sticking to your guns. But if that little fucker that we call him, the little fucker on your shoulder says you should be doing something else, then do something else. Because my little fucker, he might be a little fucker and tell me things that I don't want to hear, but it's never don't do this. It's never.
Oh yeah, I've negotiated
doing something else.
Yeah. I've negotiated
just because I'm
daily.
Quitting doesn't mean that I feel like I should be doing something. I feel like I should be doing nothing else but what I'm doing.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, I negotiate all the time. Like, please just let me put another desire on my heart. This is hell. No, it's not. But there are
just
days.
Like there's something to be said of just about because if nothing else, it makes you better.
Yeah, it does.
You look at what you're like, oh man, how did I get so awesome at this thing? That people come to me and ask me about this thing that I used to struggle the fuck out of. Like like I told you, I googled the word improv, whatever. I mean, come on, to go from that to
an Emmy.
Teaching. Yeah, that too. Sure. But like teaching sketch and improv to places like Second City or the Ruby or what was Nerdist or West Side Comedy Theater or even Nickelodeon. I teach now to the writing fellows where I was a fellow. That's insane to me.
That's so cool.
So even if I get more of my stories don't get out there, I've still had a good time, along the way. So that's the part about loving it. It's like you got to have a good time along the way, because you might only have the good time along the way. You might have nothing beyond the along the way if it never pans out the way you think so-called making it is. So
Sure.
I've been having the time of my fucking life and met beautiful people that have become my family. So this has been really great. I mean, I think that I was already in entertainment, like animation is kind of like stepchild, at least it was, of entertainment. It's no longer that. It's really huge now.
It's number one. Shit.
But I felt like I really found my nerds when I found improv and sketch community. So I always treated it that way. Like I don't care who was mean or shitty to me, and lots of people have been mean and shitty because after, if I just kind of stick to who I am and kind of waited them out, almost not even like I was waiting on them, but you'd be amazed by if I give you the list of people who have were shitty to me and they're now like best fucking friends.
Really?
I could recount, the specific ways they were shitty to me, but I don't like try to take that to heart and be like, that should be the story of us. Sure. I'm just going to keep doing good work and being myself. If you don't want to receive this love, then that's cool. You got all the love you need.
That's a great point. I'm going to throw up on the microphone. Never say any of that again, you asshole. Can I get back to these questions instead of these platitudes, these beautiful platitudes to encourage everyone? That's not what this podcast is, Dwayne.
Hey, let's get it, y'all.
Okay. What incident made them ask to speak with the manager? Was there ever a job where they were like, I'm going to talk to your boss because you are fill in the blank?
Well, I'm pretty fucking awesome. So
I knew you were going to fucking say that.
You'd be hard pressed to find someone who wants to talk to the manager.
Fine.
I'm sure there's been some sort of instances, but nothing comes to mind where someone wanted to blow by me and speak to someone else. I mean, I can even at a job where I was doing physician referrals, and they also did falling in I can't get up kind of medical monitoring at the same company. I was like moved up to manager there at one point, and also used to coach their softball team. So I've been managing people for a while. I had kids, so I have to kind of just know how to squash situations. Not that people, I mean, believe me, there's just probably a line of people out there who can't stand me. I'm not saying that, everyone loves me. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying that, what's important, or how can we have a lose-lose or a win-win where we walk away both feeling like we gave a little, or even if we didn't, we at least connected and said, well, that's a person and not a thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not into talking to people who want to kill me. Don't get me wrong, but I am into, in situations where it matters to me, making a human connection.
That's real. I mean, I think that's obviously served you, but that serves you in scenes that, it's always about the human connection. Go back to the connection. I mean, that's Dave Rosowski in my ear always, but it's just go back to that. What's the relationship? And it's, I mean, I think that obviously has served you throughout life. And that's ironic that anyway. What was the last straw that got you out of the last customer service job that you were like, I'm not doing customer service anymore?
I am an actor, so often sometimes when it's not going like you wanted to, a year or so, take a customer service job like working at Ross Dress for Less.
I wanted
doing
you to
that
talk about
for one Christmas season a few Christmases ago.
Christmas Ross.
And I was like,
how awful was that?
It was like, after not being in customer service for a long time and you go back into it.
It's worse. It's the worst. I say this all the time.
Worst.
The worst.
It was like, what was crazy was like too many instances for me to like narrow down to one what I hated about it. But I just remember this as I was, I maybe worked there like less than a week, right? Because I'd been going on auditions still, and I booked a commercial. I knew it was going to be a national. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to wait till this motherfucker shoot. I'm out. So I'm telling them I'm leaving because I just booked this commercial or whatever.
Gamble on yourself,
boo. Literally
said
something like, oh man, I was just about to recommend you for like some supervisory or management position. I was like, oh God, let me get the fuck
You're
up
like,
out of here.
My heart hurts.
But yeah, that was just like, stacking, stuff and moving dresses around, and it was just like terrible. The people are just awful,
Facts. Hardcore facts.
People just really not nice.
But I also think the part of the problem is, and I've said this to other people that have mentioned the same thing of like having to go back to the restaurant job or the whatever after they booked or got a taste of the beautiful thing that they've always wanted to do. It's worse once you get a taste of this amazing life. It's better if you just have to stay in the grind.
Don't fuck around and get medical through SAG.
Never.
Don't fuck around and get top tier medical through SAG.
Oh my God.
You got to make sure you keep working at that same level to maintain that. Right?
Or
it's not just me; it's my family too. Right?
Hello. Or for that year, you get everything done. You're like, kids, if there was a procedure we were waiting on, this is the year. Like, let's get it done.
It's just always felt the pressure of once I really dove 2 feet into acting and did get medical, did get top tier medical. It was like, well, yeah, I got to look at it as a job, and it is a hustle. But you also want to do some cool shit. So it was like most of the job, even though I have reps, most of the jobs I got were just through friends.
Sure.
A friend of a friend, and then had to do this. And then once you get to know even casting directors, they become your friends.
Yeah.
If there's something like some little small co-star role that this last minute, they see me and book me on something else, they know I can do it, they just might book me on that. You know what I mean?
Can I?
Yeah.
This is not part of my question portion of this, but everyone will get over the format changing for this episode. Are you comfortable telling the Silicon Valley audition story? Because it is one of my favorite stories of all time, and I totally remember it. If you don't want to tell it, you don't have to tell it.
I'll tell a story, but I'll add to the beginning of it was that I met that casting director when there used to be
casting workshops.
Doing workshops. Yeah. And I used to be anti-workshop. I'm like, no, that's pay to play. What the hell? That's not real. People just bullshit. So my buddy Michael Beaumont, was like, no, this through Krebs, this guy Aaron Krebs, he's puts together these things where it's not that these people, if you're good, doing the cop, they treat it like a class, and if you're good, they will call you in, that kind of thing. When I was like, all right, well, that sounds fine. I'll go with Beaumont. Feel safe. So what I saw and observed through going through these series of workshops was that, they carry around these sides wherever they go. So I wanted to make sure that when they gave a side to me, that when they brought it out again, they would only think of me.
Ooh.
So I used to, in those 10 minutes, those little 10 minutes they give you, or maybe sometimes 15, to memorize like 4 pages or maybe 6 pages of copy, I would be off book. I would be off and go for. I'm talking about. I would be making choices that I would never be making before. Just like I wanted to. Literally, that was my voice in my head was saying, "Make it so that they remember you when they pull this copy out." And then one of the casting directors from those workshops called me in, right? So I'm at the.
I love the story.
I'm nervous, whatever. You're nervous for all the auditions, not all of them, but
this was a huge. This was a huge opportunity too.
I had done commercial auditions, plenty, but I hadn't done a lot of theatrical ones, and this was a big deal or whatever. So, she goes, you're waiting around, and you see a bunch of people in the waiting room. They all look like you, a version of you, or even better than you, whatever. So
that's worse.
I always forget. What's this crazy about audition? I always forget that there's other people up for these jobs too. I'm like, wait, it's not just me. Fuck. I mean, like every time I forget.
Hardcore facts.
Which is great. It's great goldfish syndrome. So I have to go through that, stress of not looking at anyone, or because they all try to stare you down. They're all assholes. When I'm trying to be friendly half the time, they all want to be a-holes. So after I get into the room or whatever, she's like, okay, and she just like points to you and is like, go. And none of the words that came out of my mouth were the copy. Just like, swear to God, I have no recollection of what I said, but none of those words were the actual lines in the script. I don't know what the hell I was saying. And real quick, like matter-of-factly, she just stopped the camera. She said, okay, we're going to go again. And didn't give me a prep time, say what's wrong with you, whatever. And just went right away, okay, again. And I nailed it. I fucking nailed it. I didn't hear from that crap for like 2 weeks or so, because I'd literally forgotten about it. And I was in a rehearsal for, I think Afros, I was in a rehearsal or some show I was directing. And then I got the call. And I was like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? It was fucking nuts.
And so she was like, we're going again. And you knew she was going to give your best take to the director?
It wasn't a couple times.
It was literally just those two. It was one more time. Okay.
And she was. I think that maybe if I've told you the story before, where it said something about she was rooting for it, only because I know that she knew what I had done before in the workshops.
Okay.
I know that she was calling me in because I fucking crushed it. I'm talking about. I literally can say with confidence of my own, every workshop, acting workshop that I've ever gone to, I crushed that copy. I don't care if the casting director didn't like me. I know I crushed it. I mean, destroyed.
Good for you.
Destroyed.
I cannot say the same. Good job, you. All right, we're going back to my question.
She was like right away, and that was like super stressed. I was like, literally, I would say about this much time. She was like, click. Okay, we're going to go again right away. Click. And then I was like,
I better get these lines.
Like, spit them out.
I better. Okay. All right, back to my questions. All right, wait. This is hard to interview my friends. Okay, how many bodily fluids have been on you whilst you were on the clock? And I mean, monkey shit is up there. It's not a fluid. It's a solid, but it could be a fluid. I don't know. But
well, it started as a fluid in someone's body. It became a solid. How many? What? This is a terrible question.
No, it's not. Fuck you. How many?
What?
Because
do you only interview sex workers? What's happening here?
I haven't interviewed any, actually. I'd like to. No,
That's a customer service job. Probably the first one.
No, that has been suggested to me. If I knew of people that would openly identify as sex workers, I would totally interview them. So a shout out to anyone listening.
Like one of them websites or something.
No, see, Dwayne, that is a stupid idea. I'm going to end up on somebody's list, and then
There's a list.
Listen, get focused. Answer my terrible question. How many bodily fluids have been on your person whilst you were on the clock? So was there ever a customer service job where like somebody barfed on you or spit on you or I don't know. I mean, bodily fluid, peed on you.
Does peeing count if it's your own pee?
Oh my God, yes.
I remember in college I had it was like one of those again summer or maybe it was like Christmas term jobs where you could work at like UPS up north.
Dwayne, you've left out all the fucking jobs. We're up to 174. You left out all the jobs.
This is another one of those jobs, but not a customer service job.
All right, fine.
Because I wasn't a driver or anything like that. Okay. That's a coveted position. This was like loading up. They need more hands on boxes during the Christmas time or whatever.
Okay.
So I remember my buddy saying, "Bro, they paying like crazy. It's guaranteed work." I'm like, I need this. He was just making it sound really appealing to me. So I was like, let's do this. So they were like, you got to bring your own water, like a bottle of water. It's best if you freeze it because you're not going to get a break. I was like, we're not going to get a break. This doesn't sound like a job. So they were like, you got to bring your own gloves, bring a weight belt for your back. This and that. I was like, all right, man, I get it. Boxes, whatever. I'm young at the time. I was like, I could do this. That was the worst fucking job I ever had.
Really?
Like, in those trucks, I don't know which kind of the trucks, but the bottoms of those open up and there's more fucking space down below. So I'm in the belly of the beast. There's one person that are tossing you they're coming off the belt and they're tossing, it's a mountain of fucking boxes. They're tossing you boxes and you got to stack them like fucking Jenga underneath. And there was like no break. So I didn't bring a fucking water bottle that was frozen. So I was like, I'm talking about, this was the kind of dry mouth that you would only get if you were in the desert after smoking like 30 blunts. It was like dry. And I had no water. They couldn't. So I remember like him throwing me like a bag of oranges or something. They were like going, Christmas time, whatever.
Yeah.
I remember like in one motion, grabbing them, jamming my hand inside, slamming that orange in my mouth, and then stacking it, and then grabbing another fucking box. It's just like torture. So I think I worked there like maybe a week, and I was like, I'm good.
When'd you piss yourself though? Why don't you answer the goddamn question?
Oh, that was the question. Yeah, I think I might have pissed myself on that.
Are you for real?
I'm not sure.
Because you didn't get a break.
I blocked it out entirely. But I remember not having a break, and I remember maybe one time during the week because you would bring I'd end up like getting an empty like milk jug or whatever, and rinse it out, and then freeze that full of water, and that would be as it melts, that would be your water kind of thing or whatever. But I remember like it was still full of ice, and I had to piss, and I couldn't go on a break, so I might have peed myself.
I get it though; those kinds of jobs are so intensely awful.
You see, I'm never definitively saying I did or not.
I know you. I know what you're doing. I brushed past it. I know how you work. Let's go to the next question. Will you please just answer this one? What's the weirdest customer service job you've ever had?
I'm trying to think of something that had a lot of interaction. I guess the burger joint when I was working at Fat Man, because the guy was just like hands off. So he was never there with just me and my cousin working there. So we had to do like register, like food prep. We had to cook. We had to clean. We had to do everything. It was a really small little place, and it was just only room for like 2 of us, 3 of us max. Sometimes if Fat Man came. So that was like really strange because I remember one day it was a long line and this lady like passed out. And I remember calling the 911 and they were like, "What's going on? Or, what's the problem?" Whatever. And I was like, "This lady done fell out." They were like, "Fell out of what?" I was like, "What? She passed. She ain't conscious, man. Y'all better come get her." So it was like stressing for shit like that. And then like I remember this one guy was I'm saying like a fucking asshole. And he would come there all the time. I remember my cousin just like killed a gigantic roach. I'm talking about the kind of roach as big as your fist. Killed a gigantic roach and put it right in the center of his fucking burger. And it's like, yeah, fucking eat that.
Stop. He did not.
Terrible. Yeah. Oh, he did that. He did that shit.
Why was that guy terrible? Protein, get out of here.
He was like one of them, like OGs. Like he wasn't even an OG, but an OG. Like used to bang, you know what I mean? But then now become a crackhead. So he's like, you didn't want to hear from his shit, but he was always talking shit. And you didn't want to talk too much shit back because he still has some homies who might fuck you up. So it was like,
Oof. So you just gave him roaches in his meal instead, or your cousin did. Sorry, not you, your cousin.
That's it. When I saw it, then I was like, do it. He looked at me for approval, and I was like, yep, to him.
Make sure those bags do not get mixed up. Okay.
That was like a weird, you thought you knew your neighborhood until you had to serve them and had to deal with them at a customer service level. And that was just like, oh man, it's some strange characters, And I probably like reflecting on it, probably, where I'm really good at characters in improv is because you just like the different kinds of people. We are not a monolith, believe me, black people, because mostly black and brown people where I grew up, we are not a monolith. There were so many varying degrees of personalities and points of views and worldviews. I mean, it's just like, oh man, that was an eye-opening experience. And it was, I don't know how weird it was, other than just the dynamism of having to do all those different jobs with literally almost no oversight. I remember one night, the fat man didn't come to pick up the count that night, so we lived right around the corner, so we went home. I remember that motherfucker showing up in the middle of the night at our door, knocking on the door, and had a gun pointed at us. It's like, where's my motherfucking money? We're like, bro, you didn't fucking show up. We just calm the fuck down. Here's your goddamn,
we didn't steal from you, you dumb fuck. You were gonna leave it in the restaurant. It would have gotten stolen.
That's like walking home from there one night, going home, and we had to, there was an alleyway you could cut to get to the back of my house before you even got to the front entrance off the street. So we normally cut through the alley. After that, didn't cut through the alley anymore, because as we were walking about to make that right turn into the alley, just gangsters just like having a fucking shootout, like literally, like right next to my head, guns firing off, and then him looking over at us, and we just like fucking took off running back to the restaurant. Shit like that. It's just like, I'm good on this. This is like
I'm
not
so
the
all
one.
set. I'm not the guy for you. Well, Matt Craig used to always say to us to learn how to do object work. He was like, oh, do it with your left hand. Or he would say, observe people in your real life. And you're so right for informing improv. The only reason I got passed at Groundlings was because I did, my fifth character in Five Through the Door was an identical match to some weird person that I had paid attention to at a customer service job, that I was like, oh, I'm going to do her. And when he sat me down, he was like, the only reason I passed you is because of that last character. And I was like, holy shit.
I mean, as actors, we spend a lot of our time alone doing our prep work, because that's most of our work is prep, once we're performing, and that's the good stuff. So it's a lot of observation. My mom said that, when I was a kid, people didn't think I was able to talk because I wouldn't say anything. I didn't talk for like 5 years, but I was just observing.
Back to my questions. Do you tip?
Oh yeah, I tip big time. 20%, baby.
Okay. And that's your average?
20% is the base. And if they, give me some love, then I'll give them some love.
Same. Okay. And I have to come up with a different way to ask this, because I only interview my friends and everyone's like, yeah, 30%. That's what I do. What if the service is actually terrible?
Motherfuckers out there doing 30% and I'm doing 20. Damn, I feel cheap. I thought 20%
you're not.
was getting it.
It is getting it. It is getting trust and believe. After working at the comedy place where I work, like, trust and believe 20% is manna from heaven.
Like, I'm doing that even if I got shitty service.
Okay, well,
I don't go below that. Like,
really?
Lizzie, my wife, will go below that. She'd be like, no. She will like cut them down. She worked in customer service a lot. She was a server for years. And if we got shitty service there, they gonna feel it. They will feel it from her. But for me, I'm just like, this thing, it's just, the whole system is set up shitty. So let them get this 20%. And that they'd have fucking, hooked me up. We're washing the cat's feet. Then we can like that 30 or 40. Like, no problem. Let's do it.
Now, what if they called you outside of your name or something horrible? Like, what if you had a genuinely horrible interaction?
Oh, we could talk to the manager. They call me outside my name. Like, well, we could just step outside. We got to try to make no scene. It could just be me and you. You know what I mean? I could whisper it in your ear. Like, look, motherfucker, we ain't got to, we can handle this.
That's what I love about you. Yeah, I love about you. I would get rattled in things and you would just be like, no. It's cool. We can quietly destroy their feelings.
Oh my God. We can just like, they should call me a counselor. Because I'm going to get to what the root of the problem is, like right away. Have you ever worked a position that required tips? Like, have you ever received tips in a position or any customer service job that was tipped? Yeah, the restaurant, we used to get tips sometime, but I'm trying to think of I was never a traditional server. I did work in a kitchen. Yeah, when I was in college also, I worked in a steakhouse and I was a kitchen worker there. That was really a good eye-opening job too, because it was with me and a couple of my roommates. And one roommate was a cook, and the other one worked in the kitchen with me. So yeah, the servers they would break down their tips for us. That's kind. Okay. We did everything but entrees. Like, that was all done by the grill. My buddy who was a cook, it was two of those guys. They were at the actual separate grill, because people wanted to see this at the steakhouse. They wanted to see them grill it, so they had like a little separate thing. And we were back like making soups and shit. Okay. Have you ever been fired from a customer service job? I've been fired from a lot of fucking jobs. Yeah, I definitely have. Okay. Nothing comes to mind, because to me it's like, fuck a job. I had so many jobs. Like my dad used to tell us, me and my older brother literally had to forge a work permit to get summer jobs. And the reason why we had to do that is because my pops was like, look, if you want some new clothes every year or whatever, y'all gonna have to get a job. Straight up. He was like not having it. He don't care. He's like, yeah, but the law said a law. Whatever. You better get out there. You know what I mean? You better get yours. So if we wanted new clothes when the school year began, we had to get a summer job. So we had so many jobs. It was like ridiculous. So my philosophy has always been like, fuck a job. Work on your career. Now, the jobs that I had that were toward my career, or I think informed my career in some way, treated with, great care, because, you are your reputation, especially in this business.
Sure.
I mean, and, not that I didn't care about my reputation in those other ones. It's just like, I knew that the purpose of those things.
Sure. They served it. You've always been so good at giving me perspective on that when I get entrenched in something and you're like, it's not what you're here for. It's not your career. It's not informing it. Anyway, that's great advice. Okay. What's the worst customer that you can think of that you ever had to interact with, or who? I asked this wrong. Who is the worst customer?
Who's the worst customer to interact with?
Mm-hmm. Or a bad experience that comes to mind?
We've had, like, especially over the phone, this has been like, when I did that physician referral stuff, it was before the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the same idea of people getting emboldened behind a phone, just like they get emboldened now behind a fucking keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a lot of shit talkers and a lot of, people who think they can just do or say whatever they want to you, especially if they feel like they can suss out your ethnicity based on how you speak.
Oof.
Then they really want to, feel like they can say what they want, kind of thing, or whatever. So we had plenty of those, but I try to maybe when I was younger, I probably did go off and cuss people out. I'm pretty sure I did, but I can't imagine even attempting to do that. Even if I had to go back to customer service today, it's just like, it's not worth it. It's like, who cares?
No, fuck them.
I could give a shit. Even when I get bad customer service now, and there's still bad customer service out there all over the place, I try not to go off, because I still feel small, the same small I would feel as if I was the one going off on the other end of it. You know what I mean? It's like, what is that for?
Yeah,
Where's that going to lead to? Like, it's not going to satiate what you feel like the slight you think you're getting. It's not going to teach them in some way to act differently. So
no, it's just going to embolden them to stay assholes. I forget that when my temper is right on the surface, but it is, looking back on situations where I have muscled up, I'm like, that didn't feel good either. Retrospectively, I wasn't hell yeah.
I hate when people try to call it out when you're not being that too. Like, somebody was like, well, you can just calm down. So I'm like, dude, I didn't even say anything.
Oh, that drives me nuts.
So that's terrible too.
Yeah.
But I remember I was coming back from Chicago on that trip for our sketch fest, and something happened with my flight or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it was not happening for me. And you were like, hold up. And you just like worked your magic. I don't know what customer service magic you sprinkled on it.
I forgot about that.
But not only did we get the flight moved up, or at least I got moved up to where I was flying with you, but I was in the first class.
Yeah, you got a better fucking seat. I was so mad. That was the
first time I was ever in first class.
Oh, really?
Was by way of Kate Gaffney. That was amazing. Yeah.
I forgot about that completely. That's because, like, don't mess with my fam. Like, don't mess with the people that I love. No. I'm not.
You did one. You wasn't even like, I don't think you had a thought in your head of going off. You were just like, oh no, let me do this for you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, if you feel like you can do something, but I feel like I'm stuck here for hours.
No, I'm gonna get you first class. Yeah,
amazing.
Tell all your single friends, Dwayne. This is what I bring to the table: first class seats, canceled
she
flights.
Got a pedigree y'all don't even know about.
Love you. Okay, now we're gonna go into the good stuff. We hope you guys enjoyed your entrees and that you saved room for dessert, because we're getting there. I promise. Here we go. Who's the best customer that you've ever interacted with? Or an example of one you can think of?
I can't think of a specific person, but I guess generally speaking, again, it would be someone who was just like not in a rush.
Yeah, that's patient.
Like when people aren't rushed in some way and they got all the time in the world, you'd be like, great, I would love to just deal with you.
Yeah.
Because it feels like, it's all oftentimes a power struggle. People just want to feel like you're serving them. They're spending money, so they have power over, how you treat them and what you say and all this other stuff. So, yeah, people who are just like relaxed and like have all the time in the world, they're usually pretty cool. First, I would say is just like anybody rushed.
So just
they're all assholes.
Okay, this is the positive
Including
section.
me when I've been rushed, I'm just a dick about it.
Oh, same.
Same. No patience. Yeah.
No, if you came to the comedy club and I waited on you, you'd be like, that girl is a bitch. Okay, what's the nicest thing a customer has done for you whilst you were working? Can you think of a moment where a customer did something nice for you?
Working with the Heart Association did with a lot of all those volunteers and whatnot, you get a lot of nice gifts and gestures based on how we used to put on this thing called the Heart Ball. Every year was our big thing. Beverly Hills Hotel every year. It was like lots of people, entertainers that would come and host it, and big prizes that you can, we'd auction off and everything. So getting some nice notes and thoughts after that was run well was really nice. That was like people who didn't have to do those kind of things chose to do that. Just, respond to the work you put in, because I was going to have to do the work whether they had a good time or not. I still had to do the same damn work. So it was great that they took their time to send a personal note. This is back, before email was huge. Not that email wasn't a thing. I'm not that fucking old, but email wasn't big. It was like, that was kind of like rude to send an email, but a handwritten note was still considered, a more personal thing. So to get a handwritten note from someone saying about the good job you did on putting this big event together was nice.
I'm still here for the handwritten note, BTW. I still think a casual email thank you is rude.
My fridge is like peppered with them. I was just looking at one today, and they're all from shows. It's all from after sketching improv. Either stuff I did for people or the things I did for me. It's just like, a nice note about it, like an opening of a show or the ending of a show. Yeah. The handwritten note to me is just like,
there's nothing more powerful, really. Real quick, with the job, I don't think I clarified. So you, at the Heart Association job, you were in charge of donations and facilitating donor relations?
Per se. No, we were assigned like different regions within the city.
Oh, okay.
Right? Okay. I'm in charge of what they call their Baldwin Hills Crenshaw district, right? Okay. So that's city leaders and physicians, leading physicians, who are people who are either a specialty in the heart, like a cardiologist or some pulmonary doctor, people who are business leaders and can get things done and can reach a lot of folks. We call them together on a committee of some sort, and this committee has goals that we wanted to get the Heart Association message in a better way into that specific part of the community. Okay. So it would be my job to organize and put together these committees of people, make sure that we plan out what things we're going to do, from the smallest ones being, a fundraiser that kids can raise money for at the schools, like Jump Rope for Heart, all the way up to the Heart Ball that we would, coordinate through all our other regional people, and they would all come together in this one large event, that kind of thing. So I had lots of small things in between that, where you're just like working on a mission, like how do we integrate the Heart Association more into these hospitals and these, other places that they had an interest in being, and how do we get the word out about stroke being like what we call a brain attack rather than stroke. Seems like it's something separate from the heart, but the effects are the same as the cutoff of circulation and that kind of thing. So getting people educated, we use these people for that. So it was a lot of, when I say fundraising, I mean like people volunteering their time to help us raise money in a large way, not just like some call-in line and a telethon or whatever. But this was like, takes a lot of planning, a lot of negotiation, a lot of politicking, lots of politicking. I mean, when I met, not that I'm super proud of it or anything, but I met Reagan once, and that was because of the Heart Association. It was like a friend of a friend or something like that or whatever, set up through the Heart Association.
It's very cool. How long did you have that job?
When you think about another life, it's hard to put them in.
All right, here we go. Time. Like, keep going. I'll go back to my question.
It didn't really happen until sketching improv. But I guess I've worked there for about 4 or 5 years, something like that.
A long time. So it was a big part of your life. What was the best lesson that you personally learned working in customer service?
Patience. I don't think I had a lot of patience through most of the customer service jobs that I've occupied. But if I can reflect on that, I can see how patience has played a role in some of my other interactions that weren't necessarily customer service. They might have been more career-wise, but I can see how they informed how I sit back and don't immediately react sometimes. Just let people air their grievances first, and they'll feel better about being heard.
You do that so well. Yeah, that is totally a true attribute about you. You definitely...
Also, people are talking louder because they feel like they haven't been heard. Oh, that's you're yelling. You want to be heard. So let me just hear you. Now that you've got that out, I don't agree with the bullshit, but here's what we're going to do. No.
Here's what we're
being real and honest with people too. I mean, I think people don't want to be lied to. It's almost like, I think that can apply to what we do in entertainment. It's like the audience don't lie. I mean, that's why I love working in live theater, because they can hear and feel your intent, right? So don't feed me a line of bullshit, because I can tell when people are just like here to appease. But if you're honest and deal with me as a human being, I think that's super helpful. So I think being the best at that in some of my customer service jobs has taught me that, wait a minute, maybe it's something I want to pay attention to and be better at, so that way I can better serve me and serve humanity and other people as well. It's like, well, we don't need a bunch of more angry people out there not being able to interact. What is that doing for anybody?
I love that. Okay. And this is my final dessert question. What's one piece of advice you would give to customers who interact with customer service workers?
Chill the fuck out.
Hello. That's so real. No, don't kid about that. It's real.
The best interactions I've had are when the customer service rep themselves are just very disarming in a way that doesn't feel phony. Even if it is phony, it's one thing to have some rote phrase that you either have to or choose to give out. It's another thing when they make just little tiny, not trying to be personal, not trying to act like they know you, but make little human observations along the way of you doing your job and checking in a way that doesn't feel like it's just obligatory.
I totally agree with that. Now, those are the dessert questions. How do people get in touch with you? Are you comfortable giving out your socials? Do you want?
Don't talk to me. No, just kidding.
Stupid ass.
Yeah, I deleted Facebook.
I noticed that. I was like, what?
Oh, girl, I'm gone. This is to y'all.
I'm ready to be done.
Although I'm still on Instagram, owned by Facebook.
Hello, irony notwithstanding.
Because there's pictures.
What's your IG?
But on Instagram, it's dcolbert01. So DCOLBERT01.
Okay.
So dcolbert01 on Instagram, and on Twitter, it's at just like Steven.
STEPHEN.
Like Stephen Colbert's last name is pronounced Colbert. When people, for some reason, always choose to pronounce mine Colbert, though I pronounce it Colbert. So
people aren't listening, Dwayne.
Like Steve.
Just like
so
Steve.
At just like Steven, or I think the name of, as I spelled it out, the gag avatar name is Dwayne the Swamp of Racist Cops.
I know. I saw that. I love that. Are you too famous to speak to me again after this? Do you think? Is this the last time we speak?
I am nowhere near famous.
Okay.
And nor do I choose to be or want to be in any way. I'm just trying to keep working. Okay. And we'll always talk, as you my girl. Okay. So I'm not sure what you're saying.
Just want to clear that up. And so just to totally bring down the energy and not make this funny at all and be really sad, as a quick note on like the current climate and the time in history, are you excited? Do you feel inspired as a person of color in the industry, feeling like, things are shifting? Or is this just sort of business as usual? Don't get your hopes up.
I remember when Afros was running, Afros and Ass Whippings. There was this group of high school kids from some school in La Cañada, Flint Ridge, and they had a writing program. They said they would go around seeing written shows or plays and whatnot, and they would talk about them, whatever, politic about them in class. And they wanted to talk back after they came and saw Afros and Ass Whippings. And I was like, what? Some of my cast members came to me. I was like, I want to talk back, kiss my butt. And they were like, no, this is high school kids. They want to talk to you. We'll just do the thing with the stuff. So I was just like super salty. For some reason, they were like a room full of high school kids. They were super inquisitive. They're really nice. And I was just like salty. I was like, it's just salt. But I had some of my cast members with me too. They would answer things too. It wasn't just me. And then I remember toward the end, it was one of the last questions this young girl, she asked, she's like, that last song, she said, it was like very uplifting and positive. Why did you make that choice? Whatever, after dealing with a subject matter like police brutality. I was like, that just like floored me for some reason. Wasn't salty anymore. I was just like, felt so sincere. And I gave her, I gave all the answers were honest before that, but hers, like, just my earnest response in the moment was that despite all that's happening, I'm still hopeful. I think that's one of the many strengths of Black people or many oppressed people is like, being able to be hopeful in the face of hopelessness. I mean, it's just, otherwise, what do you have? I mean, we can walk around just like shitty and salty all day, but what's that going to get us? Or what does that mean for the kind of world we want to be in? So, yeah, I am hopeful, but cautiously hopeful.
That's a great answer. That was lovely. Okay, well, we're going to drop your checks now. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to help us out here at Servers from Hell, leave a 5-star review on iTunes and tell your friends to listen. It will help us reach more people that need to be schooled on the art of being kind and will be catharsis for those of us still working in the industry. Remember, if you can't afford to tip, you can't afford to go out. So don't be garbage and be good to people. It's easier that way. Thank you, Dwayne, for being here. I miss your face.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I miss your face. I can't wait till this opens up. We're all hanging out. We just do a show. We just get up and start improvising. People will be like, wow, these guys are great.
These guys are the best, even though they're rusty.
No, you think you're rusty, but it's, yes and. That's it. Also, what I tell people in my classes all the time, I just finished the class. Sorry, I know you finished it up right now.
No, you're good.
I tell them, here's how you save a bunch of money on improv. I'm going to tell you what improv is. It's just 3 things. Do it now, do it again.
Oh, I love that. That's it. Do it now, do it again.
Finish an improv scene, you'd be like, oh, man, I should have. Well, too late. You didn't do it.
Oh, I love that.
You didn't do it again, so we can build a pattern of behavior that we call game or comedic idea or whatever. So do it. Do it now. Do it again. And I don't think I coined that in any way. I figure which instructor that we had together said a version of that or that exactly, but I got it from one of them, and it's held true, so I use it as well.
That's great. Are you teaching now? Like, are people able? I mean, obviously not in quarantine, but
improv and sketch.
Where at?
It's at Second City, and Huey set up a workshop. Another one of my friends, Carolee Burke, who teaches at Second City as well. She teaches writing. We had like a little workshop too. So here and there, workshops online here and there. Oh, and also I taught the Nickelodeon writing program. Taught them sketch online for the first time this year too. So taught sketch online, which is easy. That's not a big deal. It doesn't change much from how I teach it normally in person. But the improv changed a lot about how we teach that. And Second City came up with a whole tweak in their curriculum for the improv program and the conservatory program to be able to teach it online. So I've done some of that as well.
Oh, so in quarantine, you've been teaching it?
In quarantine, oh yeah. I taught, like, especially at the beginning, I taught a lot at the beginning because one of my classes in the conservatory there had started, before it hit, and we got shut down. So we had to finish online, and then I picked up classes and stuff after that. So
I feel like that would be so hard to do improv online. I don't know that I would love it.
I started myself online. I gotta admit. I've even admitted to the students. I was like, this. I'm just gonna admit to you because we're all honest in this. And, this ain't my jam.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Not feeling this at all. Yeah.
Because even when they're trying to like pass, physical things back and forth with the camera, or trying to be in the same space, or there's lots of over talk. Forget about eye contact. Where's that? No physicality. It's just like it can be done because remember we've done bats before. We use
yeah. But I like a bat. I really like bats, actually. Yeah. But there's something about sharing energy in someone's physical presence as opposed to, I don't know. Well,
by the time we got to doing bats, we were savvy with give and take. I mean, if you're just learning give and take, it's kind of hard to be savvy with it over a medium like this that doesn't even allow for good give and take.
Sure. Yeah, the delay and the visuals and
all of that. And half the time we spend like the first 5 minutes technical issues, and then after that we're doing stuff just like looking at my watch trying to fill the fucking time. Like, what the fuck? This is insane. But sketch,
all day.
Online,
yeah.
Not a problem. That's great. But improv, man, I had just finished. I was taking over for a buddy who couldn't finish. I only taught the last 2 of it. It was the first time I was teaching actual improv rather than improv to sketch, which I was teaching before. But this was actual just straight up improv. And they were improv 3. So they were not even conservatory level. So these people are still learning what it is. Some really great, but it's just like I know I'd be better able to affect their improv in a positive way if we were in the same space together and they were in the same space with their players together. It's just tougher. Yeah. That's all.
And have they said if they're going to go back to in-person classes soon, or is everything TBD?
Soon. Each theater's got their own deal, but the city of LA's got something to say about it. So what are you going to do there? But it'll be no time soon. It'll just be no time soon, which is sad because what does that mean for a lot of these theaters? There's no more IO. There's no more UCB New York. What's happening? This is scary, As much as we want to have some changes, I was part of that open letter to Second City. As much as we want to have changes in, systemic structures that have held, BIPOC and people of the LGBTQIA plus community held them back in those places of, getting to a good place to perform and having a place to express themselves artistically. It just... Yeah, I can't see it happening anytime soon. That's what scares me. It's like we want to change, but knowing that they're not going to open up scares me.
Well, improv was sort of on a tenuous, as far as people registering for classes and stuff, was having a tenuous relationship with the generation beneath us because I think it was too easy to get famous off of YouTube and Instagram. And I think a lot of people's improv...
Maybe. I would say yes and no to that because I would think that a lot of people had... it blew up, right? So having all these small little theaters coming up, we had the major players and we had the small ones. Even for the major players, they were still trying to keep up with classes. Yeah. Second City LA, Second City Hollywood, their improv program and the conservatory program were killing it. That's what kept the doors up. We were doing better in Chicago sometimes. Damn. They were killing it. Maybe because it's Hollywood and people had to get stuff on their resume and not everybody wanted to be on SNL or, be as clickers as you needed to be at the Groundlings or at, I'm sorry, Groundlings, or at
Don't be sorry.
I don't care.
No, it was awful.
Blowing it all up. Can't test me, God, Amy. But as quick as those places were, whatever, the Second City didn't have that effect. People would say we came here, met my improv family. Oh, you people, it's nice and different there. And I think that still continued because they were like a productive improv school. The numbers were growing; they were not going down. I think us having that diversity festival helped. I know people have different feelings about diversity festivals, and I have different feelings myself about the impact of it. But I think that it did have a positive impact, at least on the place. Put it on the map in a way where people come and know that that's a place they can learn. I had some great students. Some really good students who I'd love to work with as well. But it's just going to be a while before it opens all back up. It's really sad.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, well,
besides, people dying and getting sick, and a lot of times, even when they so-called, get better, it's never better. So that's horrible.
Scary.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not I think that me being able to play with my friends on stage is, worse than I'm trying to definitely.
No, but it's not
more of a health issue than anything else. But I am saying that it's part of our livelihood, being able to get out and interact. And so it's the worst part of it is that people get sick and die, and the least part of it is that we can't interact.
Well, and it's not a grief competition. I think people are sort of lamenting the fact that, well, if I haven't died from it, or if I don't know someone that's directly died from it, I don't get to have grief around the things that I am losing as a result. And I don't think that's fair. I think it's all relative. Like, to the teenagers who didn't get to go to prom this year, or the seniors who didn't get to walk across the stage, that is potentially the worst thing that's happened to them. And I'm not saying that we could do a grief off all the time. We could be like, well, children in Syria don't have access to food, and it's horrifying. Or in Flint, there's not clean water. Also horrifying. But I think it's not fair to our own mental health to say, well, because of these extremities, I don't get to lament my own experience. And so, I mean, there's a lot, like, they just shut down Broadway for the remainder of 2020. And there are a lot of actors that are out of work and sad about it, and get to be sad about it. Oh my God. Oh my God. I cannot imagine. And for the city of New York. I mean, anyway.
I mean, that's a lot of jobs. A lot of people that
so many jobs.
Yeah.
So many jobs. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on, Dwayne. I'm glad I got to see you.
Yeah. And thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I love and miss you. And I'm glad that we got to, I don't know, briefly interact on this thing.
Take care. Have a good night.
All right. Bye. You too. But
the biggest lie in Hollywood is self-made, Kate. Ain't nobody self-made.
Hello. That's so true, though.
It's all friends. It's all teams. It's all like partnerships. It's all like, you don't have to be besties with everybody.
Just to get, yeah. No, you're right.
People out there just greasing palms, slapping on the backs, and having conversations that we are not privy to.